Spearhead got involved with theater and I just didn't know he was into it. But he wanted to get theater going. Well, he did. He talked to me about it, about how we should do something with theater. And I kept saying, yeah. And see, I went off on my way and wrote some plays and stuff like that. But he still wanted to do something. And I said, well, we could do some of my plays. Yeah, we could do that. But he wanted to do something himself. You know, he wanted to do something. And so that's how that all came about. And that's why, you know, we've dedicated this theater to Bearhead. I mean, this is Bearhead's theater. He's really instrumental in getting this started.
What we're doing here is probably the first ever in this country. It's the first time, it's revolutionary, that we're trying to establish primarily a resource center to help all Native people that in turn will help Native communities to express their own stories, to take control of their own stories, to enrich their own stories, to nurture their own stories, and give them the means to share their own stories.
We change, and we're always evolving. We're always evolving. So one time we were storytellers, and now we're still storytellers. We're just telling our stories in a little bit different way. That's how I'm seeing it, is that now when we sit down, we can sit down and actually write something. Before, those stories were just in our heads, and they were remembered stories.
And if you were to look at Native stories, that's the reason why Native stories don't fit into a dramatic structure, because they're spatial. They're not linear. And most play structures that are being taught in schools are linear. Whereas when you grow up with learning traditional oral storytelling tradition, the stories are spatial because they're ongoing. And they don't come to a resolution or an absolute ending. They go on.
With our stories, like we have coyote stories, for instance, and they're creation stories. And that's where those things come from, is that we've become those stories. We become who those people are. And it's really important to understand that we're still part. You know, we are the coyote. We are the coyote. And all those things that he does, those crazy things that he does, that's us. And we have to, you know, we finally have to stop and say, hey, that is really me in this. I'm not just telling the story. This is me.
Well, I grew up with a storytelling tradition as well, but see, the storytelling served so many purposes. It taught us, it educated us, gave us a sense of history, our spirituality. It gave us our universe. That's the reason why these stories were so important. The confrontation I had was that non-natives didn't have the same values or perceptions. They didn't share or have the same values or perceptions, which made it more difficult. And as I got older, I didn't realize how vast the differences were. Then I realized that basically theater in Montana has been predominantly a white art form. And there was no inclusion, no intention of including Native people. So if I had to do anything for the theater, I had to make that vessel possible. And I couldn't depend on anybody else doing it, so I had to break the ground first.
It's good to see movement in Native American theater. When we first began to work Native American theater in the early 60s, one of the things that was happening was building the Paulo Solari Amphitheater in Santa Fe. And the dream was that Native American theaters would be formed all over and we'd meet there and perform there. It never happened.
For Native theater to flourish, Native people have to take control of this medium, and as I say, form a relationship with it, because it's like, if you will, silversmithing is not a traditional Native form, but it's become a Native form, and it's become a Native art form. Theater has to go through the same process.
If you want to be an actor, get out of that chair. If you want to be an actor, read. Learn to read. Learn what the words mean. Learn how to love the words. Learn the history of the words. Learn where the words come from. Understand where the words might go. Learn how the words fit together. Learn the meaning behind how the words fit together. Learn to listen. Listen well. Listen to the words. Listen to how other people speak the words.
I think what the importance is that I think for us to be able to, first of all, get out of ourselves. First just be get out of ourselves, be somebody else maybe, and play somebody else, and do some things that make us, better maybe, but just do something that's different.
There's no playwriting center for Indigenous people. There's no Indigenous theater building for Native people. If you were to go to Los Angeles, New York, Seattle, and as you're going through Theater Row and someone asks you, well, where's the Native Theater Company? There's no building you can point to and say, yeah, that's houses so-and-so Native Theater Company. Specifically. And I'm not talking museums, I'm not talking colleges, I'm talking professional theaters. And as far as developing Native playwrights, there's really no center for us. There never has been. There have been programs, but there's really been nothing for us as far as an actual architectural structure with a program, with a staff that's all Native, that supports Native people and Native writers and Native communities.
The power of voice, what does it do? It shapes relationships. Soft voices. Soft voices build a gentle relationship with the people that you run across. You can communicate and build from that. Loud voices, and where do they stand? They're used in emphasis and warnings and anger. They drive things away. They make things draw apart. They, in emphasis, put a point on things, make things important if used in the right way. They can elicit feelings of pity. They can elicit feelings of inner strength, struggling to be free, like that character last night.
Theater is the most peaceful means to bring about change that doesn't involve bloodshed. You can bring about change socially, politically, spiritually in theater without bloodshed. And in this environment, this country called America, where every change comes through violence or involves violence, this is exciting because for Native communities, it's that chance to bring about change, to bring about clarity, and most importantly, to really increase civil discourse and helping communities develop their own civil discourse and reinforce the means of how they want to communicate, to support their languages. Because the bottom line for this is that I would love to see several Native plays being produced out of this center written in Native languages, their own Native languages. So that maybe within 10 years we actually have a full-length play that's written in Dene, or Lakota, or Dakota, or Salish, or Crow, or Blackfeet, or Blood, or Pagan, or Northern Cheyenne. I'm waiting for that day to happen, and not apologize for writing it. When we do songs, when we do dance, when we do ceremonies, it's the breath of life. It's the breath of people. When we do theater, it's the breath of the people. So when we're up on stage, we're acting, we're directing. It's not so much that we're fighting with words or struggling with words, we're trying to create this living breath so that when the audience comes in, they share this breath. But when it's a strong breath, when it's a strong heartbeat, no matter if the person's from the tribe or not, they can share this breath. And that's the goal of theater.
Right from the very first breath, it was all an interconnected movement from character and from one developed personality that moved to the changes that Frog went through to get to the end, to make that statement. And that's breath. That's breath. It's true in the dance, in the movement. The breath moves. It begins the movement, always begins the movement. Always everything starts with the breath. You know.
Non-native theater has these flagship writing institutes in the country that primarily develop plays. They develop playwrights. One of the more professional and outstanding, larger national organizations is the Eugene O'Neill Playwriting Festival, or Eugene O'Neill Playwrights Center, where in 4 weeks in New London, Connecticut, writers from across the country submit plays to have their plays developed with a cast and a director for 2 or 4 weeks. The hopes are this, is that we now have the means to provide a valuable resource. And this resource will bring about, hopefully, better communication skills, which means we create and help support individuals to become more healthy in their expression. And if they become healthy in their expression, they in turn become healthy with their community. And they can help their community for their community to express itself in a healthier means.
Chakoni wa dukwi ba masi. Chakoni wa dukwi ba masi. Dukwi ba was the changer, the person who changed the world for you and I so we could live in it. I later found out, recently, the meaning of the words. There will come a time when all of the shaman of the world will come together. And all of this mess that's going on will be discussed, worked out, and fixed, resolved by this meeting. I think there's a belief that that's going to happen. I hope so.